everyone. So we just got back from our trip to Dominican, so Punta Cana. We were there for about a week, 7 days, and we just wanted to kind of give you guys some updates of how our experience was. Obviously, because of COVID, there's new rules and policies that we have to follow, unfortunately, in Canada, and also when we landed in Dominican. So we just wanted to give you guys the heads up in case you guys are deciding to go there.
Just a disclaimer, this is our experience. We're not saying that you're gonna have this. Also, we're gonna tell you the things that we encountered during the trip and what's different from pre-COVID to COVID world, to see what items were changed and what we have to do for safety precautions around the resorts. Obviously, there's different rules from before to now with buffets, with going into the hallway. So we're gonna walk you through what we've encountered during the week when we went to Dominican. So let's start it off with the beginning.
So before the trip, what we did is just to pretty much make sure that we were okay and then everyone on the flight was going to be okay. We just thought we would get tested before we leave, just to make sure that we didn't have anything. So we got tested I would say about 5 days in advance before our flight, just to see if we had COVID or not.
I mean, you didn't need to do it, but I mean, depends on certain provinces or location, state where you're at. You could take a test prior to, don't have to, but just look at the rules that where you're at, so that you're in compliant with the rules.
And luckily for us, we tested negative. So we were good to go on the flight. So the day that we left for Dominican, so we got to the Ottawa airport. Shout out to Brendan's dad. He's the one that drove us.
At like 4 a.m.
Shout out to Papa Johnson. Anyway, so we got we got to the Ottawa airport, and it was actually very quiet. It wasn't busy at all. It was just like your typical day at the airport, I guess.
But one thing that you walked into when you go to your airline, just remember, or we didn't get any emails about an e-ticket. It's basically like you have to scan a QR code to just saying that you're arriving to Dominican. So you have to fill that information with your passport information, your address, and like your occupation at one point.
Like how you used to do it years ago with like that declaration form, that kind of small.
But prior to boarding though?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's like that. It's like the same questions that you used to do on that declaration form, where it basically just asks you a whole bunch of questions about like passport, who you're traveling with, how long you're going to be going for, where are you staying, all those basic questions. So it's the same as that form that you used to do, but instead of the form, it's now all done online. Obviously, because of COVID, they don't want any touching of forms and everything like that.
Yeah.
So then after that, once you get to the kiosk, you basically are doing everything the same as usual. So you're putting in like your passport information, asking who you're traveling with, all that kind of stuff. The only real difference that it's asking at this point is you have to scan your proof of vaccination. So that QR code that everyone got after being double vaxxed. So you have to scan that into the machine.
As Robert was saying, it's the usual thing. We drop off a baggage and we continued on for security, the security line, and we get to the gate. Nothing really different with the security lines. You still have to wear a mask everywhere, but the regular. And so when we get to Dominican, the airport there, when we land, the e-ticket was needed, the one that we filled out at the Ottawa airport, that was filled out. So it was very fast. You just show customs, they stamp your passport, you go get your baggage from the carousel, and out you go. You're looking for your bus, your whatever airline, or the package that you picked. Then you go to a shuttle there at the resort.
So then once we got to the resort, Pretty much the resort was your normal resort. Nothing was really that dramatically different. Still lots of people that were there. The only difference was you have to wear your mask. So you had to wear your mask anytime that you're walking around in the lobby, or kind of like the hallways that they had. Anytime you're going into a restaurant, even if it's outside, you have to wear your mask anytime you're in the actual restaurant. The only time that you can take off your mask at the restaurant is when you're at your table. You don't have to wear it at your table and waiting for like food or drinks or anything like that. You can just take it off as soon as you sat down. But as soon as you stand back up to go get more food or to go to the washroom or to do anything, you then had to put your mask on again.
Yeah, and then when he was talking about the buffet, usually pre-COVID is you can just walk up and you can just select your own like tongs and you can choose your own food. But because of they're trying to limit the touching and everything like that, the workers, the chef, they're the one who's putting the food on your plate. You just gotta tell them how much or how little you want and which one you want. Just so that not everyone is touching the handle for safety precautions and all of that. But there are some stuff that like you were able to get yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was at the buffets, it was, I would say it would be about 50-50. 50% of it was you could serve yourself, 50% you couldn't. All the staff, doesn't matter where you are, they all were wearing their masks all the time. Unfortunately, you do have those people that just didn't want to follow the rules. Unfortunately, there was a few of those, but
where they got really close to you and like personal space.
Yeah, they would
doesn't matter.
They would get very close, like kind of like instantly beside you while looking at the food. So they'd get very close, even though they had signages that said like 1.5 meters apart. Some people wouldn't wear masks, even though you should be. Besides that, at the resort, everything else was exactly the same as what you would usually do if you went to a resort.
Yeah, like the beach, the pool, when you're outside, you can just obviously not wear a mask. But then at the same time, if you want to be safe, you can do your own precautionary doings. So if you want to be safe, you can do it. It sucks that other people are not following it. But again, it's the way that you want to live your life and be safe. Gearing up to the closer to the end of the trip, we knew that before entering Canada, you need to have a negative COVID test upon entry. So it has to be within 72 hours. And the resort we were in included, or not included that, we had to pay for it, but they were doing testing in the resort. That process, we had to get a link from one of the workers, and you had to take a copy of or select a date when you want to go there and what time you need to go there at, and you need to get a copy of their passport from the lobby so that you can give it to the nurses working there so that they can just call up your name and they have that information. So we took the test. It was really quick. Like usually when we took the tests in Canada, the PCR test, it would take like either 10 seconds or 5 seconds. But there was like, what?
It felt like they did it for about 3 seconds maybe.
It was very short. But
we got the results very fast. So we got it within 24 hours. So we got it the next day pretty much. So they notify you by email for the PCR test. It did have a fee, so it was $65 US. So just make sure that when you go to resorts, it could be different depending on which resort and which country you go to, or if it's actually included in your package. So just make sure you check that. So just make sure that you always have lots of US dollars available, just because of the PCR test, and then something that happened at the actual airport, which we'll explain in just a bit. When you're going back to Canada, so when you're at the actual airport in Dominican,
it was a madhouse.
It was very hectic. So there was tons of people in the airport. It wasn't very COVID friendly at all, of how packed it was. But basically, for you to leave Dominican, you had to have your e-ticket that we filled out. You had to show your PCR results that you got from the resort, so the proof that you're negative. And then the key thing that you need to have, which again, it didn't indicate anywhere on any of the emails that we received from our vacation. So we didn't receive any notifications from our airline, anything about this. For you to leave Dominican, you have to pay some sort of, it's called a departure tax, and it's $20 US each.
Each person.
So we had to pay $80 US in total for the 4 of us. We had no idea about this at all. And
the bus person, the airline bus, when we were departing, they told us in the bus, but how can, they told you after the fact, but what if you didn't have that money to end up with? So that was the difficult part. And I obviously, for people who are well traveled, they know about this departure tax, but like new people that are just traveling for the first time, or it's been a while traveling, like for us, the last time we traveled was 2.5 years ago, and obviously you forget that. So what if you didn't have enough money to leave the country? And so this is what we had to do.
But that's the thing, people who are experienced with traveling have said that this is something that is normal in Dominican, but 2.5 years ago we traveled to Punta Cana before. We never had to pay any kind of departure tax at all. So I think it might have been included potentially in our airline at that time. So it made no sense why 2 years ago we didn't have to pay, but this time we did have to pay. And one thing is, I always recommend bringing tons of US cash with you.
How much?
Just in case. Set aside, depending on how many people are with you, set aside $20 each, and don't touch that for the whole trip that you're in Dominican, to save that for the airport. Just because from our experience, while we were at the airport, we had to get $20 US each somehow. And me and Brendan were running around the airport trying to find US dollars, asking about maybe 5 or 6 different people who worked at the airport. So for us to be able to get the US dollars, we basically ran around the airport trying to find money. Eventually someone told us that they don't have US dollars at all, that we can just kind of get with our debit or credit card or anything like that. So we had to go to an ATM. We had to withdraw Dominican pesos. And then with those Dominican pesos, we still couldn't pay that $20 fee. They didn't accept pesos, they didn't accept credit cards at all. So we had to eventually find someone or somewhere to exchange pesos for US dollars. And every single person that we went to, that for some reason they kept asking us, so how many pesos do you want to pay us for this amount of US? And in my head, I'm like, why are you asking me that? It makes no sense. Online, it's saying that it's going to be this amount of pesos for this amount of US dollars. That's what we're looking to do. They were all trying to scam us out of money. They were trying to get more. Basically, they were trying to make money off it. They were trying to make a profit from that $20 US. For 3,000 Dominican pesos, it was going to equal 60 US dollars. And eventually, after asking multiple different people, getting different stories, getting different amounts, someone eventually said that they'll give us 60 US dollars for 6,000 Dominican pesos, which was way more than what was showing up online. And then we had to go back and forth. We went back to the airline person. He said that he can't do anything. He pointed us to someone else who also worked for the airline. Again, they're working for the airline and they're asking for more money than what they're actually telling us to get. So we go back to this woman and she says, oh no, I can get it for you guys, no problem at all. Eventually, after a long, I don't know how long it was, like
haggling process,
maybe 25 minutes of running around, we finally got the US dollars. We had to pay about $20, $25 more than what we were supposed to get, which again, they scammed us out of money. We finally got the cash to be able to pay this airline to get that departure tax.
But just so moral of the story is just make sure that you have additional USD with you. I mean, I guess at the same time, we're not blaming the airline, We're just saying that maybe sometimes it could be advertised more for newer travelers, newer people that are traveling, because I mean, people won't know that, right?
The part I didn't understand though is I could understand maybe out of those 5 people that we asked, 3 of them were non-airline workers. They were just workers that were at the airport. I could understand them trying to get more money out of it because, again, they don't work for the airline at all. So they're trying to make money for themselves. But the 2 people that we asked who worked for the airline, like, you work for this airline and yet you're still trying to scam us out of money. That makes no sense to me. It made no sense as well why they didn't accept credit cards, where at the store, like at the stores at the airport, and once you get past security and everything at the airport, everywhere accepted credit cards. But for some reason, for this departure tax, you had to pay cash.
But after that, after the whole debacle of finding USD cash, we finally made it to the gates and our flight was delayed. But you know what? It's all good. We made it home. There's a lot of turbulence because, you know, traveling during winter is not cool. Touching down on the ground because it's just very windy. But when we arrived to the Ottawa airport, there was always updates. Like, Canada always has updates with traveling advisory or something like that. The day before we left, there was an update saying that because of the amount of people coming through, they can't keep up with it. So there's going to be some random testing. And only people who travel to those specific countries that have the variant will need to take a test and isolate and all of that. But we didn't get chosen for a random testing, but some, like 50-50 did. But other than that, that's the process coming into Canada. But mind you, this is just our experience. Like, other people can have different experience for it. So we're not saying that this is what you're gonna have or what you're gonna encounter. But this is like leaving and entering Canada is easier. Entering Dominican was easy too. It's just like departing from a different country. You just need to do a bit of research and know what, like, read up on like the airlines, what they need to do. So, but other than that, we had fun.
Yeah. Other than that,
I got color.
Other than that, the trip was amazing. She didn't want to be in the sun that much. I love the sun and I wanted to be in it, but obviously the sun doesn't like me so much because I didn't really get much color. It was amazing, and
it's just really like great to actually go somewhere else, travel somewhere else after being in a lockdown, like quarantining, like just being in a different country. Just relaxing is a lot of fun. Yeah. So stay tuned for our vlog coming up for our trip to Dominican. Thank you for watching.
Please like and subscribe. And if you guys have traveled during COVID, doesn't matter if it's resort or not resort, please comment below how you experienced with the airlines and the hotel or resort or anything that you did. And we just want to know how you experienced it.
Don't forget to hit that notification bell to get more updates from us. Peace out, y'all.